instant reactions. You can see I still have my soda from the AMC. Just finished it. This is a good movie. I was skeptical at the trailer, right? Because it has that meta-ness feel to it in the trailer. Yes, the A24 comes across the screen, so you have some allure to it already and some notoriety, that good reputation. But again, like, it's not for everybody. All their films aren't for everybody, right? Whatever that Lamb, not for everybody. Like a bunch of A24s. So I thought this wasn't gonna be for me. I'm not a big horror guy, but Doctor, this slapped pretty hard. This was pretty damn good. And again, from these YouTubers, and I was part of this to an interview with these guys. They are very smart. They are not really YouTubers. They didn't want to necessarily be YouTubers. They wanted to be filmmakers, but just happened to by chance start out on YouTube, you know? And I am a fan of these guys. This is how you make a creative twist original story. And it's again of something where you probably thought like everyone like I think you probably think, oh, this seems so easy. Like, oh, has a MacGuffin with the hand. You're talking to the dead. Sure, might have some cracks in the plot here and there, but overall, the twists and turns, the creativity, the low budget, only $4.5 million budget, but the practical effects looked great in my opinion for that small of a budget. I just think it's so cleverly made, and I'm very impressed by these guys' first directorial debut. I'm very impressed.
I had the same sentiments, and what I couldn't get out of my mind, it's the RackaRacka guys. Have you seen their videos on YouTube, Ricky?
No, but I know like they're intense and like they
So,
sometimes could get
well, they're funny. Like they're funny videos, and like they usually make fun of IP. You might have seen like Ronald McDonald like trying Burger King. It's one of their famous videos. Uh, Deeply funny, and it's and there's also Harry Potter versus Star Wars. They have incredible effects for YouTubers. You can tell that these guys were going to be filmmakers if you watch any of their YouTube. And could sense that they were YouTubers from this movie, like for a multitude of reasons. Like you talked about the low budget and the practical effects. You could tell this was a simply made movie. And part of like YouTube in this generation, I think these guys are perfect directors that I think we're going to see a lot more of in the future. Part of the thing that told me they're YouTubers is how that opening scene, they're able to garner attention from the get-go, right? First minute and a half, 2 minutes of the movie, they know how to grab that attention. They keep a 90-minute runtime, 95-minute runtime. They keep it tight, concise. They said initially they had it at 2 hours. They cut it down to about 90 minutes. And I think it worked. The pacing I thought was incredible. Like to me, it was just easy to, I can see this being kind of like a groundbreaking in terms of A24 could be looking at YouTubers for the future in terms of like having them make movies, right? Or in terms of like them getting movies made and then A24 finding out that it's by YouTubers that have many fans and subscribers. Like the box office, I think a part of what's selling this movie, it made over $5 million this weekend domestically. That is still over budget for the film in its third weekend. I think it's gone on. I think it's the second highest grossing A24 movie that they've ever released. And I can't help but think that it's also because of this fan base for the RackaRacka guys, because they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. No, they have 100 million. You check that for me really quick.
Yeah, I'm looking. Hold on.
I want to say it's like insane.
6.9 million.
6.9 million, not hundreds of millions.
6.74.
I don't know numerics for YouTube as well. I should know because I'm
over a billion views.
Over a billion views. Like you have that fan base and you hear they're making a movie, and if you love their content, it's gonna do well in theaters. And I think also word of mouth is helping this movie. I think people are calling it like the sleeper hit of the year. A24 does horror once again and nails it with a young cast and young directors, and boom, you get 3 straight weekends making over $5 million. You feel that too with the word of mouth?
Word of mouth is not the same vibes as Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that was more like critically, multiverse story. Like the balance just didn't really work. This is like, oh, young cast, has that meta feel that I spoke to earlier, and it's a horror thriller that's A24. It has some backing behind it, as in that studio, that reputation. yeah, people are going to talk about this movie and the twist of this movie, the creative nature of this movie. Yeah, this is going to get talked about. So yes, not exactly the same word of mouth as like last year's Everything Everywhere All at Once, A24's darling of last year, but this has that word of mouth, maybe not to the same effect, but definitely overproducing at the box office wildly. And I think a big part of it is because of the word of mouth.
And what typically happens with word of mouth movies, what people talk about, it's either one particular scene or the ending. And this movie has a great ending. And because it has a great ending, people walk out, and that's what's the last thing that's ingrained in their brain. And they tell someone what they saw, and you have to go watch it. Why do you have to go watch it? It's got an incredible ending. If you have a good ending, it usually leads to good word of mouth, Ricky Flicks. But do you agree with me when I say like the future of Hollywood might be what's on social media right now? And there's even, you see these comedians, they try to use YouTube and Instagram and TikTok to enhance their profiles. Actors trying to show their chops through YouTube and through Instagram, TikTok. Now we're seeing directors actually getting associations with A24 and making films, right? And having them widely distributed by A24. So that's, I think, something that we're going to be looking towards in the future. This is just like the most prime example. And it's, of course, A24 who's ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's like in Dave season 2 when the document or his friend is literally being A24 goes up to her and says, "Hey, I'm interested in talking with you." Literally, that happened here. That literally happened here. And yeah, I think this is going to be a trend where YouTubers, particularly like YouTubers that produce their own or that they produce and like their own content, but they're also like the directors. They're the behind the scenes. They do the editing, the VFX, and the other effects that they do. They're the minds and kind of creators behind it. We're gonna see this trend just continue to go up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because YouTube, like these guys, a big reason I was listening to this interview where a big reason why this even happened was because a lot of their videos were getting taken down by YouTube and they couldn't monetize on them because they were too violent or something, or like the subject matter was questionable or something like that, according to YouTube. So they wanted to be more free, and of course, like this is a great avenue to do that, especially with working with the A24. So I think we're gonna I think or I think I'm pretty sure we will start seeing this trend continue to go up, especially when you have the success of this type of movie with these. I won't call them pioneers because again, this movie just came out and just got a wide release. This actually came out last year, right, in Australia. So like a little different.
Sundance. Yeah.
Sundance, yeah. So all in all, like I do think this is going to be a trend that we're going to continue to see, and I'm excited because YouTube's only gone up in production values throughout the years. And I'm not a big YouTube guy, as in I don't watch a lot of YouTube on a daily basis. I watch it probably weekly, a monthly basis, but I am excited to see what these new creators and new visions come across, like these guys.
Yeah, yeah. So it's South Australia, I think. South. It's I'm trying to think of the production companies here. Oh, they're listed: Bankside Films, Causeway Films, Headgear Films. So not huge production companies. Obviously, it's an independent film. It's A24 distributing it, but it's interesting because these guys, where we're going to see them next on the big screen, they're writing a sequel. It's already been announced by A24 that there's going to be a sequel to Talk to Me. And they've already supposedly shot a prequel that connects to the first scene of the movie. This is like the second horror franchise that A24 is engaged with alongside Pearl, X, and Maxine. That we're looking at potentially a trilogy that's going to be made, or that with the RackaRacka guys. So I would like to see them do something different. There is going to be a draw like for them to be doing big budget stuff, I think, over time.
For
But
sure.
what's interesting is that they make fun of IP stuff on their YouTube page, you know? So it's like, where do you find that balance? It's like how the Daniels, I think, are directing an episode of Loki. I think that's for season 2. I think it's Loki, or there's some MCU project they're directing an episode of. And it's just interesting when those A24 guys who get their name out from A24, if they cross over, how does it actually look? Do they have their vision on screen? Do they lose any touch? But these big budgets, these big studios, excuse me, skipped over Talk to Me, right? And they finally get their chance with A24. And the MacGuffin you talked about, this hand, great prop too. And in this, the people are saying that A24 is going to start selling this hand, and they're going to use as paperweights or places where you can hold pens and pencils or a ring holder, jewelry holder. It's just going to be so A24 when they start to sell this thing.
Yeah, it's completely. And they're gonna direct it. The Daniels are directing an episode of the Skeleton Key Crew.
That's it.
Skeleton
Star
Crew.
Wars.
Star Wars. And that's the one with Jude Law. Right. And we talked about the Daniels like being offered before Marvel, and they said, "Oh, we want to do our own multiverse project." And look what happened. I think these guys also like this is like, oh, yes, I did like this movie. A sequel, prequel, I think it's a little oh, it's a push for me personally because versus like I compare a Quiet Place, for example, great first movie, right? And that universe is literally a universe. It's like that world is literally the world. It's so large, so many stories that can be added, character development, everything's there, right? Here it's like, all right, you're just gonna introduce new characters and kind of just do run of the mill similar. We all know the trick now. You lost that allure to it. So like, what are you going to do to attract us to it? I don't know what you do. A prequel I could see because of the origins around this, but a sequel, I do not. I don't know. I don't see this. I don't know as going to be as successful. Hopefully they come up with something very creative. So I'm wrong. I would love that, but as of right now, I just don't see a great vision for that.
Okay. So, well, I think this movie opened up a lot of avenues or paths that this franchise could go on. That's what I noticed when I first watched it. I'm not that into horror movies. Like I don't take too much enjoyment seeing them on the big screen. A lot of times I like to watch them in my house just because I don't want to yell out loud if I get scared or something like that. But when I first watched it, the tension worked so well. I was squirming in my seat. I was like, do I want to cover my eyes? I'm not going to, but like I'm like, like I'm squinting really hard. The second time I watched it, I knew what was coming, so I didn't have to like really grip my seat at all. I could actually just focus on like the story and the writing. What I noticed is that they definitely opened it up to the sequel and the prequel, but also they're talking about the origins of the hand and where is the other hand. Like literally, it felt like what you see in big budget movies where they're just opening opportunities with this huge movie. And that's what I think maybe that they were thinking of when they were making this film. Like there was always going to be another idea in mind. And I just think there's avenue after avenue they can go. If they do the prequel, I'd be nervous they're doing something that is just the same thing as the first movie. That's so I don't necessarily want to see that. A sequel, you can explore like the powers of the hand, how it operates, like see the other side of this world where they explored only one half of this world. I think you can go in different directions with a sequel or with the origins of the hand. That could be an interesting story too. I'd be actually more interested in the sequel than the prequel.
Right. I think we're same page. I'm more interested with the origins of Hand, something that we haven't seen. I think that would be a prequel though, not a sequel, is what
No,
I'm
no, no.
saying.
I'm saying the sequel because like for the first time we're spending time on the I'm just saying that was an avenue they can go if they want to do the origins of the hand. I don't
Yeah.
want to no spoilers, but like based on what we saw at the end of this movie, I would like to stick with Sophie's character and a great lead performance in this movie and see this other side of a world that wasn't explored at all, that we just got glimpses of. Seeing the world from a different perspective. I think that's what the second one offers. If you haven't seen the movie, this is spoiler-free territory. So you might not know what I'm talking about, but I just think that's an avenue that the RackaRacka guys could take that I would be intrigued by.
Yeah, I could see that too. I'm just kind of shocked that they're doing a sequel because this was like they originally wanted to do a different movie, one about their own upbringing, like their own life, and that quickly did not go. That didn't get finished, and they don't have a particular intrigue with horror. They just did this one, right?
Mhm.
So it's just like, oh, why? If you didn't have a particular like passion for this project, and this is your directorial debut, you're just gonna keep doing this, like as in like, oh, all right, you're just gonna do a sequel rather than just build out your brand and do other avenues that you might be more passionate about, more interested about. Because you're definitely gonna have suitors now. There's not gonna be studios passing up this script, your next script. So I don't know. I was just a little shocked by that, and just jumping right into when this is only 3 weeks into global box office. Oh, we're doing a sequel. I was just a little shocked.
Yeah, it's just already so financially successful. It's so meager compared to big budget studios, but it's highly successful in the A24 and independent film realm. Ricky Flex, I want to go more into like the tension and the fear that you felt during it. I thought it was also very funny. I thought it was a good job balancing both, and that's where it also felt like a YouTube type of filmmaker with some of the immature humor that we saw and the awkwardness. But I just want to get your feeling with the tone of the movie and what the RackaRacka guys pulled off here.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think they did a good balancing act here. And again, like I'm not the biggest horror fan, but the scares were good. They weren't cheap. There's a couple odd scenes that were just like not hard to watch because they were scary, but hard to watch because I don't think any human would be interested. I don't know.
That's the point. There was certain parts where it wasn't the scariness. It was like, that's disgusting, and I'm turning my head. Like, that's just, I can't. Watching it a second time, I was like, I'm not watching. I know what scene you're talking about. I am not watching that again.
Right. So it's just like, this isn't unrewatchable because of it, but I'm not looking forward to whenever I do revisit this, some of the scenes here, because they're just disgusting. But other than that, this is great. I think one other thing I wanted to mention as well with this movie, and going back to what we were saying with the horror elements, the people next to me. All right, I had one of the strangest theater experiences of my life during this movie. Okay, so I was with my girlfriend watching this movie, and it was almost a packed house. I think it was like 98% full. All right, there's these two seats open next to me though. I know they were full though when I bought the tickets. The movie's starting. All right, so it's the first scene, and the first scene, awesome first scene. It's right before the end of the scene, and these people just walk in. Okay, mid-30s, couple, fine. They sit down, they start talking. I'm just like, oh boy, we're not doing this. The guy's got the Ninja Turtle Slurpee. He's sitting next to me. The girl's got popcorn, candy, the works, right? Then we get to like 5 minutes later. I just hear the guy was asleep.
Oh, no.
And the girl's like commentating the movie, like saying, oh no, we're not doing that. Like as in, oh damn, or like some crazy, like just commentating throughout the movie while her boyfriend or husband's sleeping.
Just providing color to the movie.
Yeah, but like not like for him, for like just like commentary for
herself. Sounds like just color commentary.
Yes,
saying like just stuff that's going on the side.
And I'm telling you, these snores were loud. And he would just do like the wake up snore, like when you hear, like I guess when like older people like hear themselves snore, like, and they wake up, and then he's like
choke on their own saliva,
and he's like, and he was wearing a flat brim hat, and after that, he literally did this. He took his hat off, put it over his face, and started to sleep.
It's a short movie. It's not like you're seeing Oppenheimer.
Like the pacing was good. But he purposely took a nap and snored throughout the entire movie.
I can't believe that's so disrespectful for him to like, he knows he snores too, probably. He's waking himself up from snoring and then putting the hat over his eyes to say like, I'm going to keep snoring despite everyone else like trying to enjoy this movie. This is not like it's you saw it at like 3:30 in the afternoon. It's not like you saw it at 10 o'clock at night. Like this makes zero sense. Why did you go spend this money, spend $17 to go see Talk to Me if you're just going to sleep through it? That makes zero sense. And buy all these snacks and a Slurpee.
And take a nap for 90 minutes when your girlfriend's just wife's commentating throughout the movie to herself. Like it was one of the most disruptive theater experiences I've had of my life. And yet I didn't let it phase me because the movie was that good. So that's, if I had to give a recommendation whether to go see this movie or not, I think that's the best sell I could do. This movie was great with a grown-ass man snoring very loudly next to me and his girlfriend just talking throughout the entire movie.
Did he sleep through the scene of the movie?
No. Wait. The most disgusting scene he saw.
Yes, so disgusting. The gory, because this was a gory movie at times, but it wasn't gory like the entire time. I think like this movie did a good job picking its spots, and what like we'll go into spoilers in a sec. But when there is the moment that I think is going to be talked about, it's one of the best horror scenes I've seen in quite a long time. The physical performances of that scene, it was nuts to watch. I was open mouth gasping in awe during that scene, and it was that moment where it felt like a teen horror movie in my eyes, because like that's how I described it before. I was like, oh, this is like a great teen horror movie, but also tackles much bigger themes, like dealing with trauma and like how trauma can like skew your thinking, and you could put other people in danger like with your trauma and things like that. But that scene is living rent free in my head, and I think it's top 5 scenes I've seen all year, and that goes with also the effects. You talk about the practical effects of it too, and the facial expressions, and like what like I mentioned the physical acting, but what were your reactions to that scene when you saw it? Did you know that was the scene I was insinuating last episode?
No, I didn't. I think there's some great scenes throughout this movie. When you say that scene, I don't know. I'm again, this is I literally just saw this for the first time. I'm recording this pod. Maybe I'm just forgetting. Like there's like one clear standout scene. There's a couple that I
The
love.
goriest scene of the movie, and it's where
Oh, yeah, okay.
yeah.
I really did like that scene.
We'll go into spoilers in 1 second. Let's just go spoiler free thoughts right now. We'll wrap it up here. I did want to also say I got this is like the first horror movie I've seen that I saw heavy influences from Get Out in terms of filmmaking, in terms of the beginning of the movie, a kangaroo gets hit in the middle of the road, like first couple scenes, like obviously you make that Get Out connection immediately, but also what they're doing with the camera, and the person is center stage when they're grabbing this hand, or a couple times with Sophie Wilde, the main character, how it has their head feel so small in a zooming out camera, just like you're seeing when Daniel Kaluuya has the drinking the tea, and then there is the tap of the tea glass, like that moment, like that frame of shot. It felt like it feels like Get Out. Like, did you see that with the filmmaking at all? I just was making direct connections immediately when I
That's a
saw it.
good. I love that connection. This definitely had at least influence. I think is the right word to use, but just in case, like it just definitely some correlations, some similarities here, and I loved them. And there was great writing throughout because there was definitely good callbacks to other pieces of dialogue that were actions throughout the movie and
Yeah.
not too direct. I thought it was very subtle, yet we acknowledge them. Very well done. The symbolism, themes, everything was hitting on all cylinders. I think your analogy is good, and I think just the writing in general to go along with, which we haven't talked enough about, was the performance of Sophia Wilde, which she hasn't really done a lot. She's been
Mhm.
in a couple TV series, one other movie, but then this is it, and she's going to be in another movie, which I don't recognize a single name on this cast or director or anything, but oh, it's a series. She's going to be in another TV series. She should become. People should be calling her. This was an unbelievable performance. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. Do you have the full cast in front of you?
Yeah.
So Ricky Flex, I think she was great, and I think the younger brother was awesome. Can you tell me what his name was?
Joe Bird.
I thought he was great in this movie.
He was good. Tough role.
And he's not getting a lot of acclaim for it. I think Sophie Wilde, like deservedly so, she's getting a lot of praise for it. But I thought the physical acting from that kid was fantastic, and I think he was cast perfectly too. And it's kind of hard when you're casting an independent film to find the right kids. And I like how they maintain the Australian identity of the directors and Australian cast. That's where it feels like small budget. We're keeping it like to who we truly are. I just like that aspect of it.
It's crazy too because like obviously with these smaller budget movies, and again smaller movies literally, and like you were just saying with the cast, we have Miranda Otter or Otto here from Lord of the Rings, the mother of the kid
Yeah,
Riley,
she
Joe
was
Bird
great
that we were
too.
talking.
So funny.
Yeah, she was really good, but like she's the only recognizable actress or actor in here.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's facts, Ricky. I wanted to go before we throw scores. I want to go through a couple flaws because we've been like really praising this movie, acting like it doesn't have any. I beg to differ. One thing, Ricky, drives me insane. I don't understand the mechanics of the hand. Like I don't know why it treats some people a certain way and some people another. I just don't think it was consistent enough. It was not it didn't really it bothered me the second time I watched it because I think they do a nice job if it's a first time viewing, like you're more engaged, like trying to like you're sitting on the edge of your seat waiting to see what happens next. The second time I'm trying to understand how the hand works. And I just don't know if the rules were consistent enough throughout with the MacGuffin, but that's
Yeah,
just something I was feeling.
they weren't. And by the end, the problem with the inconsistencies is, yes, this is all make believe, and we always say
Mhm.
as superhero movies, like yes, like there's gonna be plot holes with some of the superpowers, and like oh, you could just do this, right? Then you wouldn't have a movie. But the problem is with the ending of this movie, there's a clear answer. So you can't have inconsistencies throughout the movie and then have what happens with all these plot holes, or I would say cracks, not holes, because they weren't large. I just think just cracks with the MacGuffin and all the events around it. And if your excuse is for these cracks, like, oh no, we just want to leave the audience asking questions when they leave the theater. That's a BS answer. That is not the answer when you have an answer. It's not like a Christopher Nolan dreidel spin at the end. That literally is to draw questions. This, when you have an answer, you can't be just saying, oh no, that's a cop out. You just provided inconsistencies to make sure it would go along with your plot and to go along with your script. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, just admit it. I'm not saying these guys haven't. I don't know if they have or haven't. I haven't heard that. But I just think that is for me, because of the ending, that is a big issue for me.
Yeah, just like convenience. That's what you're doing when you're writing different rules for different people because it helps how the movie's going to play for certain characters. I think also something I complained about, like it falls under like the same horror movie tropes that most horror movies fall under, where it's I became so frustrated with the family that Sophie's staying with that they keep associating with Sophie. Like after like some of the incidents that happened throughout the movie, it's like when you're saying where it's like that commercial where it's like where are we running, like in that horror movie commercial. How about the shed full of chainsaws, and they run to the chainsaw.
Why don't we go in the moving car?
It's like repeated behavior where it's like, why don't you just separate from this person? And then also I was getting frustrated with like Sophie's character. So it's Sophie Smith. Is that her name?
Sophia Wilde. Sophia
Wilde. I was getting frustrated
Sophie.
a little bit with like how dumb she is sometimes in this movie. How maybe that's just the trauma and like her being blinded. Like I get that, but it's still I found her character kind of frustrating at points too, where I'm like, snap out of it. Like it's crazy. But those are really only the major flaws I had. Other than that, like more than solid movie.
Yeah, more than solid. Again, like I was just at the beginning, I gave credit to like how creative it is and everything, right? And it is. End of the day, though, does this reinvent the wheel? I don't think so. I think the YouTube, the business side of it, I think this opens up avenues and make sure, hey, we got to keep doing these because look at how big of a hit this is. It's making 10 times its money at minimum. So, yeah, I love this, but this isn't reinventing the wheel. That's why it's not going to be super high for my rating, especially with the plot cracks holes I have with it. But it's going to be a good score.
So what'd you give it?
I give it 85.
Okay, I had 86. So we're on the same page. It's I think it hits top 10 of the year though. I'll tell you that. I think it's a top 10 movie.
It's close, right? I think it's right around there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the draft we just did.
Me too. I think
like
it's 5,
Oppenheimer. Like Oppenheimer. What else did we pick?
Spider-Man.
Mission Impossible, Spider-Man. Barbie's around there. The Clone Tyrone. Like, yeah, this would be around there.
Yeah, it's in 5 through 10 range. I'm excited to see what RackaRacka does.